I am Al Hunt, and I was so lucky to have Tim Russert as a dear friend for 28 years. Tim knew there was a heaven, as Sister Lucille just said, and he's watching all this with a little awe, a lot of pleasure, and some wry amusement. If I had asked him for advice, as I did in any important decision I had to make, about being the House Episcopalian, speaking after Sister Lucille and before Mario Cuomo, he would have shaken his head, smiled, and said, "Dress well." He would view this as another payback for Henry VIII.
We're having a little audio difficulty here. You are listening to Al Hunt. We're listening to Al Hunt, the Wall Street Journal editor and longtime friend of Tim Russert, as we are at his memorial service in Washington, D.C. And as we wait to restore audio, I think it's appropriate that in this time of people remembering Tim, there were so many thousands of people who wrote to us here at NBC News to say what Tim had meant to them in their life. And I'd like to read you just a few of them. From Helen in Colorado, she said, "In my heart, I thank him for the hours he spent gutting out the truth from every corner so that his intelligence and stick-to-itiveness could light our way." We have audio again. Let's go back to Al Hunt.
And the three of us listened to Tim give the speech. It was one of the most memorable gridiron speeches ever, and I heard it twice. But the other reason he came over was he wanted to show off his new girlfriend. Northern California, Berkeley, stylish, gorgeous, the perfect counter-programming for the kid from Buffalo. He was smitten. To be as great as Tim was, you need a healthy ego, a good sense of self. But he always marveled that he had gotten Maureen Orth to fall in love with him. 4 years later, Judy and I went to New York to see the most memorable baby in almost 2,000 years. Luke was 2 days old, and Tim would stand outside the nursery and beam and say, "Look at those hands. Do you notice how much more active he is than all the other kids?" Luke was going to be the Darryl Talley. To those uneducated, that was the Buffalo Bills star linebacker in 1985. Or president, or pope, maybe all three. Luke, that pride only swelled over the last 22 years, and he never was prouder of you than at Holy Trinity this morning. When Tim went into journalism, it was a career choice. He never saw it as a revolving door. As Michael Gartner wrote in that beautiful piece this week, however, he did have to be talked into going on the air. I was enlisted in that effort. And after all the perfunctory "I have a face for radio" stuff, what it really came down to was that Tim knew that in short order he had become a management star on the fast track to be president of NBC News. He wasn't sure if he would be the best on air. Anything less was unacceptable to him. In short order, of course, he was the best. That Tim was the preeminent political journalist in America is all the more remarkable considering the context. In a time when our news business, newspapers and television, is struggling, trying to discover new formulas, panaceas, more edge, techno-glitz, Tim turned to the oldest virtues and verities in the profession: preparation, integrity, fairness, accountability, chalkboards, tough but civil, and an enormous respect for his viewers and the noble calling of politics. He made it informative, interesting, compelling. Now, it didn't hurt that he also possessed the instincts of Ted Williams and the competitiveness of Michael Jordan. More than a few flunked the Russert test, the political bar exam, but not because of a gotcha question or a cheap shot. That was alien to Tim. If a politician was serious, substantive, prepared, and candid, he or she passed the Russert test, and they in America were better off for it. And oh, did he sparkle and shine in his favorite election, this one. Our last conversation 2 weeks ago, he exclaimed, "Albert, can you believe they pay us to cover this election?" On a personal note, none of us had a more devoted friend than Timothy J. Russert. Whenever you needed help, he was there. Our oldest son is disabled. An essential figure in his life for 10 years has been Tim, sending him hats and notes, calling him when he got back from school last month, periodically bringing a welcome exuberance to Jeffrey's life. Maureen and Luke, your loss is profound. But I hope it provides comfort in knowing that millions and millions around the world, from the most powerful to all those whose Sunday mornings revolved around Tim Russert's Meet the Press, to the many children and those in need who he always was there for, that they loved him, they'll miss him, and always will remember him. And we shall not see his like again.